Why do you suppose that the idea of the entire cosmos having an objective, polarized orientation to it is so troubling to most people? From the moment we exit the womb, virtually everything pertaining to our first-hand human experience involves an increasing awareness of the distinctions between above and below. So much of our everyday language exposes this pervasive dimension to life. No one gets confused about the comparative differences between climbing and falling, floating and sinking, rising versus descending. We all feel the same foreboding when peering into the depths. The same splendor and wonder when gazing at the heavens. Therefore hear the word of the Lord, you scoffers, you who rule this people in Jerusalem. Because you have said, we have made a covenant with death, and with Sheol we have an agreement. When the overwhelming whip passes through, it will not come to us. For we have made lies our refuge, and in falsehood we have taken shelter. Therefore thus says the Lord God, Behold, I am the one who was laid as a foundation in Zion, a stone, a tested stone, a precious cornerstone of a sure foundation. Whoever believes will not be in haste, and I will make justice the line, and righteousness the plumb line. And hail will sweep away the refuge of lies, and waters will overwhelm the shelter. Then your covenant with death will be annulled, and your agreement with Sheol will not stand. When the overwhelming scourge passes through, you will be beaten down by it. And that's Isaiah 28, verses 14 through 18. And I finally came across these verses after several weeks of thinking about this topic that I've been trying to put together a video on for some time. And I was trying to figure out just the best way to come about it or articulate it or whatever. And the main challenge of it being that it's almost too simple. It's almost too basic. I mean, it's surprisingly hard to try and encapsulate it somehow. But this verse really just brought it all home to the real point of it all. This idea of the plumb line. That Jesus, of course, is that cornerstone, and he is that plumb line and that measuring standard, the level. There's so many verses in the Bible that use these kinds of terms, and you can say it's all metaphorical, right? I guess metaphorical for essentially there being an objective standard to morality, because there is a God, and that is indeed what it all means. But it's amazing now, here I am sitting, recording this on the eve of the new year for 2020, and this basically would mark the 4-year anniversary, more or less, from when I first encountered these cosmological challenges to my worldview. And then, of course, how that starts to make you think about very simple things like this, like the meaning of up and down, and how weird it is to stop and go, yeah, God could have made creation any way he wanted, in the way we interact with it and experience it, and yet he chose to make the world that we live in and make our bodies and the way we the way we walk around upright on 2 feet and look at everything standing up or sitting down. Everything about human life fits into this orientation. And then you start to wonder, like, how much does this idea that, on a practical first-hand level, everyone who builds a house or goes to work or does anything, plumb is plumb. But if you go far enough away, then it's all relative because of the gradual moving around this center point of the globe, supposedly. So it's this abstract concept, and how much about the physical world that's held on top of your day-to-day experience, because everyone lives as though plumb is plumb. And so how much of a connection is there between your belief system about the physical world that you live in, whether it's a globe or something else, and your spiritual perspective and what you really believe about morality and meaning and, why everything is the way it is? Is it by design, or is it random or self-creating or something like that? Are we the measure of all things, or is there an external objective measure of all things? These are the questions that I think go beyond debating over just the physical dimensions and aspects of creation. Although obviously it's become very difficult to not think that they are very related. I'd say. But it's interesting because, having sort of been in this arena or community or whatever you want to call it, all the topics of research related to biblical cosmology and everything. Most of the time at the beginning, it's like you find yourself, fending off attacks and trying to fight through the mockery from people who don't even want to take an honest look at it. But, so you're kind of in this defensive mode all the time. But after a while, you start to realize that the tough questions, everyone has to face them. So, okay, for those who think that the idea that space is all a lie, and NASA is being fake, and there's no such thing as a real photograph of the globe, and all, if you think all that's ridiculous, and still believe in the idea of human beings walking around on the surfaces of other moons and planetary bodies and all that, and you can't let that go, well then, all right, even then, it doesn't matter where you go in the alleged solar system or the galaxy or anywhere in the universe, if you claim to believe that the Bible is true, then the plumb line of righteousness still is the same wherever you go, anywhere in God's creation. Spiritually speaking, it's kind of funny to say it, but you may as well be a flat earther. Because there is an objective standard for human life and experience, dealing with good and evil, right and wrong, justice versus injustice. anywhere where human beings exist.